What's going on, demand marketers? This is Balaji, and welcome to another episode of Demand Wars. All right, so we're going all the way to sunny Australia today. He is the co host of the B2B Playbook podcast and co creator of the B2B Incubator. You don't want to miss it. They're launching a brand new cohort January 23rd. He loves saying meta, but Facebook kind of ruined that word for him. His mom's friends think that he looks like the chimney sweeper in Mary Poppins. Check the movie out. Let me know if they're right. Please help me welcome halfway across the world. It's tomorrow where he is, George Coudounaris. What's up, George?
Oh my god, I feel like I'm coming in to wrestle you. Like, that was a big entrance. That's terrific. You've done your research. I love that. I think I want to set that up as like my new alarm clock.
Let's
I'm gonna
go. Let's go.
I'm going to get out of bed to that every morning. It's unbelievable.
George, it's a great pleasure. I've been enjoying the show, man. B2B Playbook is different. You and Kev, I've got to say, not a lot of shows have two hosts, right? And so just the natural banter, like were you guys friends? Did you know each other before the show?
Yeah, so Kev and I worked at a performance marketing agency together, and before that, we were both sad and lonely corporate lawyers. So we found each other, and I think we kind of realized we were each other's other half. I think if it was just Kevin, people might get a little bit sleepy and bored, and if it was just me, people might get a bit annoyed. So together, I think maybe we just balance each other out.
I love it. I love it. Well, welcome to the Demand Wars. I'm excited to have you on. We're about to put you through the gauntlet, man. We're putting you through, so brace yourself. We're gonna walk through a number of different question categories. We'd love to hear what the B2B Playbook creator has to say about these. But before we do that, George, you had a quote on one of your shows that really it painted a visceral picture for me. You were talking about the difference between demand capture and demand creation, right? There's sort of this general wisdom that about 95% of a business market at any given time is not necessarily in a buying cycle, right? So a lot of marketing is focused on that remaining 5% that are in the buying cycle. You painted the picture, George. You said focusing on demand capture is like jumping into a small pool full of sharks. What in the world were you thinking when you came up with that one?
I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking, Balaji. No, look, I mean, we liken demand capture to, as I said, just jumping into that pool full of sharks because you're really just competing for that 3 to 5% of the market who are in buy mode now. And the reality is as long as you're competing in that limited pool of people, you're up against all your competitors and it becomes an absolute bloodbath because unless that category or that market is growing in overall size, what happens is you and the competition are just competing for that limited pool of customers. But if you're growing as a business, you're trying to take up more and more of that market. But guess what? So are your competitors. And if that market is growing, the number of competitors isn't going to be stagnant either. There's going to be more and more competitors jumping into that pool, which becomes an absolute bloodbath. So our recommendation is, look, I mean, you've got to start off in that demand capture. You've got to swim in that pool, get a little bit bloody. But my God, there's a whole blue ocean out there for you to swim in, and it's full of dream customers. And you need to get out there and you need to start working on them. So you're not just swimming in that tiny pool getting ripped to shreds.
This makes me feel like I'm in a James Bond movie, and this is a little bit of an obstacle course that 007 is trying to get out of. It feels, George, particularly with the economic climate in some countries, certainly in the US, perhaps in Australia as well, that pool not only has sharks in it, but the pool might be shrinking.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's kind of where it looks like it's going, is it looks like things are shrinking a little bit, which makes it even more important to get out of it because the reality is in that tiny pool, the biggest shark wins, right? The business that is bigger, well established, can pay the most for those customers is the one who is going to dominate that pool and you cannot survive in it.
Mm.
So, absolutely, even when times get tougher, I think more and more businesses are going to have no choice but to look to those blue oceans and start working on that 95 to 97% of the market who aren't quite ready to buy now, and they need to start building relationships with them.
Okay, we're gonna segue with the whole concept of the ocean in a minute. We're about to go to desert island marketer as your first hurdle, but before we do, there's one more piece of homework I gotta lay out there. So one of the things that really makes yours and Kevin's work unique is this framework you've created, the 5 Bs. And I'm going to put myself to the test right now. George, do it live. The 5 Bs, if I recall, are be ready, be helpful, be seen, be better, and be best. How did I do?
Wow, 10 out of 10. Unbelievable. It took me longer than you to get it. Well done.
Oh, I've been listening to the show, and you guys actually have a really novel approach. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the show and the show format, because you posted on LinkedIn, George, about how you had the first 100 episodes already outlined, and later I'm like, how can you do that? It turns out you guys spent the time to create this framework, I imagine, based on your prior work experience as performance marketers. And I think Kevin actually works now at a SaaS company. So he's working in a B2B organization.
Yeah, that's correct. So really, when Kevin and I got deep into B2B, we just found it very frustrating because all we could ever find were different like tactics, hacks, separate strategies. We went to all the places that I'm sure all your listeners, viewers go. We went to HubSpot. We read books from people like Seth Godin, Russell Brunson, and none of it was incorrect, but it was just so unclear to us as to what you should do and when. So we, used our lawyer background. We did all our research. We read everything that we could, and then we started testing what worked on our clients. And basically, we came up with a strategy that led to long-term sustainable growth. And we call that the 5Bs framework. And we never say that we're reinventing the wheel. We're just taking the best of what's out there, the tried and true marketing fundamentals, and putting it together in one cohesive strategy. And the framework is great because it's quite flexible, and it means that as long as you have the framework in place, you can add to it as your marketing education continues, even beyond Kevin and myself. So really, we're focused on building that resource that we wish that we had when we got into B2B. And we just thought, how cool would it be if we were the people who could provide that to people and be the resource that we wish that we had. So that's why we were able to plan out our first 100 episodes. We literally lay out step by step, episode by episode, what people need to do if they're an in-house marketer.
I'm just not connecting the dots. It's such a nerdy and thorough approach to marketing, but you got 2 lawyers at the end of it. So no wonder you've been able to create. Good Lord, they got 100 episodes. Hey, I need some lawyers on my squad. That's what I need.
Yeah, we're very, very diligent, very good at spreadsheets. Kevin in particular, he's very good at organizing our ideas. As I said, we're each other's other half. So very grateful to him for organizing all my loose, crazy thoughts.
All right, so I'm actually going to take that and use it against you, George, because we're jumping into desert island marketer. All right, Kevin is in the comfort of his home. He's snuggled up under the blankets. We are transporting you to a remote, deserted island. Okay, you've got $1,000 a month in budget. You're a B2B marketing manager. How do you allocate that budget for 2023? Go.
Wow. Okay, so presumably this desert island has internet still. So
Fair.
Elon Musk is operating there. We've got his what's his Starlink, whatever it is. Anyway, that's all going. I assume we have internet.
Yes.
Okay. What's our average customer value? Is it high? Is it like 10K plus? What are we looking at?
Interesting question. Let's go for maybe an average B2B average customer value. Let's say 10K.
10K?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's probably a little
All
bit
right.
low, but let's say 10K, fairly moderate.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, I would say if we're in that 10K kind of mark, now this answer might surprise you a little bit. If we're quite resource poor, I would actually look at something like account-based marketing to begin with. So with that $1,000, I wouldn't necessarily jump straight into platforms. What I'd really do is I'd interview a bunch of dream customers, find out what the priorities, what their pain points are. I would then, assuming that this doesn't eat into the $1,000 budget, or maybe I can allocate a bit of it, launch a show, a podcast where I do get to spend some one-on-one time with that dream customer, get to know them quite well, use that as an opportunity to figure out exactly what their pain points are, who the buying committee is, how we can be the best solution to the problem it is that they're having. And then beyond that, after that warm-up, I'd probably look at sending them a gift, and I'd use that money to send them a really tailored, personalized gift along with the proposal and try and book that meeting off the back of it. So I'd actually probably allocate that initial budget to a select group of really best fit accounts and try and win meetings with them.
Okay, so I'm going to add a restriction here. There's no post office on the island, so whatever you're sending as a gift will have to fit in a bottle. It might take 6 months to get there. But George, actually, so I should have actually called Kevin up and placed a bet on how long it was going to take before you referenced Dream 100. Apparently, you are a big fan of the Dream 100 framework, and I actually was tickled when I heard this on the podcast because I've listened to Russell Brunson for a while. I heard about the Dream 100 framework a few years ago, and it's fascinating. For those who haven't heard of it, would you mind just sort of explaining? Kevin can tune out to this part because he's heard it 100 times. What is the Dream 100?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Dream 100 it's not actually the top 100 accounts that you want to win over. It's the top 100 places that your dream customers are already hanging out already. So that might be, Slack groups. It might be LinkedIn groups. They might be gathering at conferences. They might all subscribe to certain industry relevant newsletters. It's about identifying those points that they're already gathering. And from there, what you can do is you can either work your way into those communities organically, or you can buy your way in with paid advertising. So it's a really key part of what we call Be Ready, which is establishing those foundations and deeply understanding your customer, is finding out where it is that they're hanging out already and who influences them.
Got it. I like that concept a lot. And the ABM approach, I have heard you and Kevin talk about amplifying this compelling content that one creates, either through paid advertising or through an ABM approach. So I appreciate you illustrating how one can do that. George, we're going to move into the next question in the demand wars, which we call 3, 3, and 3. So you've been asked to create demand fast. A lot of demand marketers right now are getting heartburn hearing this because this is a reality for them. So we're going to ask you to create demand really fast. I want you to answer this question 3 separate ways. The Tasmanian Devil Special. So how do you create demand fast in 3 days? Then the Roadrunner Special. If you had 3 weeks, how would you do it? And then finally, maybe just like a Power Walk Special. If you had 3 months, how would you create demand? So let's start with that Tasmanian Devil Special. It's almost the end of the quarter. You're not hitting your MQL numbers. Your manager comes to you and says, we need demand in 3 days. George, how do you do
it? I'd say I'm going on holiday. I'm so sorry. My dog is sick. I don't think I can. Oh my God. Okay. In 3 days, if we have, quite limited resources, I always like to look at things in terms of the 5 stages of awareness, right? Okay. And for listeners who aren't aware, the 5 stages of awareness are the 5 stages that a potential buyer needs to go through, from being totally unaware that they even have a problem to being led to the logical conclusion that your product or service is the absolute right fit for them.
Yes.
And the 5 stages are unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, most aware. So the less time we have and the more results that are expected of us, I like to flip that in terms of what we tackle first. So if it's 3 days, I would like to try and target those people who are closest to potentially buying from us already.
Smart.
Now, I understand we're talking about demand creation. So one might argue that, look, that's not really creating demand. We're just capturing people who are already aware of us. So maybe we'll start at people who are problem or solution aware to make the game more fair. I would probably in 3 days try and get our best customers on a Zoom call, like record it, ask them what their experience has been like with our business, what outcomes they've had, what made them buy it. And then I'd ask them, do they know any other businesses just like them who could use a product or service like ours? And if they could benefit from it, and ask for an introduction. As part of that, we do this for our own business too. We'll offer them a killer referral bonus that's paid personally to them to try and get them to be the champion for us to communicate with the other potential champion in another company. I then chop up those Zoom interviews into video case studies, testimonials, throw some budget behind it to reach the buying committee of those dream accounts. And I'll try and get meetings with those people who have been referred to.
I like it. I like it. That is very, very tactical, but I can absolutely see it's well thought out as well, George, because you're looking at the 5 stages of awareness. You know that approach wouldn't work for people who are problem aware, but you're tackling people who are problem aware, maybe solution aware. They know there's some solutions out there. They haven't figured out who should be on their short list. And you're not only going to them with, this is what worked for our clients, you're actually getting a warm introduction as well. That's a home run. Very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I think that in terms of trying to create new demand, that is the absolute best place to start.
What if you had 3 weeks now? So now this is almost like a luxury. Like you could go on that vacation, come back. So you've got 3 whole weeks. What kind of program might you put together to create demand?
Yeah, look, 3 weeks is still not a lot of time to organize an extended program, but we talked about those 5 stages of awareness, and we've basically started creating some solution, product, most aware content. Hopefully we did that in those 3 days. So what I'd like to do is really try and build that out more. So I'd probably like to launch more solution aware content. The other content was more like case study focused. This is exactly how it's going to help people just like you. For solution aware content, I'd probably try and create stuff that really discusses those pain points that's going to be super relevant to that buying committee within our dream accounts. And then also starts to explore the benefits of our solution as the answer to it. So that would be like kind of like the next step up in creating content for those 5 stages. Depending on where it is that our dream customers hang out, I'd throw some paid media behind it to launch that and get that helpful content in front of those dream customers.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's probably what I do in 3 weeks.
I like that. It almost feels like a bit of a framework approach. So you're not necessarily running completely different programs and campaigns. You're just sort of opening up the aperture a little bit more and tweaking the content so it speaks to the people who have now been included in the target audience.
Yeah, that's correct. So, I mean, of course, all of this should be based on a very deep understanding of who it is that your dream customers are. You'd really want to narrow the segment that you're going after. You want to make sure that your product or solution is positioned precisely to solve their exact problem. Because the more relevant you can make yourself, the more obvious it is to that person that you are the no-brainer solution to the problem it is that they're having.
Right.
So I would qualify everything with saying that the positioning is absolutely key.
I don't know what you're talking about, George, but all of my products solve 100 problems, including doing taxes and toasting bread. So if you have a pulse, we will sell to you.
Yeah, I feel you. I absolutely feel you. We'll sell to you, sell to everyone.
There you
it's
go.
For everyone.
All right.
Look how big our TAM is.
Exactly. That's how big our TAM is. All right. So, George, you've now got 3 months. You actually have a quarter to roll out a program. And this could be relevant for people who are coming up with maybe their 2023 plans, and they're trying to figure out, all right, if we have a little bit of runway before we have to report results, what would you do? What would you execute?
Yeah, look, I would, again, just build out that 5 stages of awareness content more. So now we've got content for people who are unaware, to problem aware, to solution aware, to product aware, to most aware. And we'd really start to be building great expert content around each of those 5 stages. So we can create that journey that those dream customers can start to self-educate on. I'd try and amplify that process by, again, using paid media to make sure that we're not just pushing like direct response, buy my product stuff in front of these people, but pushing content for all those 5 stages of awareness in front of those people. On top of paid media, I'd probably actually try and do something exactly what you're doing here, Balaji, in identify people from the Dream 100, people who influence your dream customers, collaborate with them and use them as amplification tools of that content that it is that you're creating. So now we've got content for all 5 stages of awareness. We've got different ways of pushing it in front of those people. And in our experience, you can really create demand in that 60 to 90 days once that demand program is up and running at full steam ahead. So I think 3 months is probably just enough time to definitely see some leading indicators of success and possibly some lagging too.
I like that. I heard you speaking with, I think it was Miles Madden, formerly of Refine Labs. I think he's at Observe AI right now. And you guys had a really rich conversation about demand creation versus demand capture. One of the questions you asked was about leading versus lagging indicators, because a challenge a lot of us marketers have is that we know, based on studying our target audience, our ideal customers, that they want information that's helpful, that's entertaining, that speaks to their pain points, that's not pushy. But that content, especially as you've laid out, is not necessarily going to get them to convert today or tomorrow. It might take a month or 2 months. I'd love to hear your take on what sort of leading indicators we might be able to use to justify to management that, hey, this is actually working. Don't pull the plug yet.
Yeah, definitely. Look, in terms of leading indicators, I think it's always best to break them down into qualitative and quantitative. So qualitative ones that we normally look for is greater engagement from your ideal customers where you're distributing your content. So if you're on LinkedIn, that's looking at, okay, which potential customers are actually engaging with our content. Are they the right people from the buying committee? Are they within our firmographic fit to be our dream customers? So looking for things like that is really, really important. Collecting information from sales or customer success to see, are people starting to mention our content? Are they saying it's helpful? Do they follow it? These are all indicators that we are hitting on the pain points of those dream customers. For us, it happens quite regularly. People sending you DMs about your content, telling you, hey, that last piece that you did on the Dream 100, that was really, really interesting. I have these questions around it. Could you elaborate on that more? And of course, the big one, the one that really I think so many people were using a long time ago and then got rid of it, and then Chris Walker kind of brought it back to life, was self-reported attribution, which is simply asking, hey, how did you first hear about us? And so rather than relying on the last touch point in your CRM to tell you, people can tell you, hey, you know what, we actually followed the B2B playbook, and that's why we've decided to join your program. So they're really the qualitative ones. We recommend trying to quantify the qualitative ones. So, as much as you can, whenever you come across qualitative data saying that there's a particular piece of content that's really working, try and document it in like an ongoing spreadsheet. And that's what we do. And then, pull out line by line, like what that source was from the self-reported attribution. So then, for yourself, but also you can present that information in a way that executives are probably more, or salespeople are more used to seeing it. So rather than sending them a huge long list of qualitative data of people, leaving different answers with how they heard about you, they can easily look at it and go, oh, 25% podcast, 15% said virtual summit. So they're the qualitative ones. In terms of quantitative, an increase in overall brand traffic is one that you tend to look for. The logic there being that the more successful your content program is, the more distribution you get, the more people start to come to you to look for it. So increase in brand traffic to your website is definitely a big one there. Increase in engagements from companies that fit your ICP, ones that are visiting your website. That's another big one. Whenever we look at the quantitative data, we always like to look at the quality of that quantitative data. So if you're diving into metrics on your page, like to try and determine if a particular blog is working well, don't just look at the number of views that it got, but maybe look at how far down people scrolled down the page on average, how long they spent on it, to try and see, is this actually getting to the pain point of what our dream customers are having? So I'd say, yeah, those qualitative and quantitative aspects are really, really important to keep track of and to communicate as leading indicators.
Got it. Yeah, I like that. That's insightful. Okay. All right. So we're going to move into the next segment of the demand wars. You might want to take a drink of water. This one's going to be taxing, George. This is going to be taxing. So we are making you, all right, you are now the CEO of Netflix, of Disney. You've been charged with transforming our B2B marketing so that we market like a media company. So in a couple of minutes or less, how would you, if we just gave you the keys, unlimited budget, how would you help us market like a media company?
This is if I've now come into a B2B organization. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, I would probably look at following our 5Bs framework. So look, that absolutely starts with that first stage, and what we say is be ready. And be ready is all about deeply, deeply understanding your customers. And so that normally starts with, first of all, looking inwards to your company and asking yourself that question of like, why do we even exist as a company? Who is it that we're here to serve? What is our greater purpose? From there, we'd look at doing some 80-20 analysis to go, okay, which customers are actually our best customers? Which ones fit us like a glove? Because they're the ones that we really need to work to understand. After that, I definitely look at running customer interviews, and probably wouldn't do it as a survey, but I look at running customer interviews one-to-one with our best customers and ask them questions that give us really deep insights as to their pain points, what it is that they're struggling with, why it is that our product or solution was such a good fit for them. And then that starts to give us a great idea as to what we can actually start to help them with. After that, I would look at trying to map their sources of influence, and we already spoke about the Dream 100, so I'd look at mapping out that Dream 100. So now we've established that first stage of Be Ready. We've done our fundamental research. We understand our customers deeply. We understand their pain points. That's the stuff that everyone forgets to do, and it's the most simple stuff, but everyone forgets to do it. Now we are ready to start actually creating some helpful, educational, entertaining content around that. Now, to do that, we've already spoken about how Kevin and I are big planners, but it's always informed by research. So based on those pain points, we like to look at what unique value are we positioned to provide our audience. Now, if we inherently hold that value, if we can be subject matter experts ourselves, then we can be the ones to provide it. But if we're not, then can we engage subject matter experts to help us create content that's going to be genuinely, really, really valuable to our dream customers? So once we've established that, then we'd look at, okay, well, we know what our dream customers' pain points are. We know where our unique value is for them. And that's something that we call like a bit of a content tilt. That's what's going to help you stand out from the crowd. Then you're going to start to ideate, okay, what would a potential show even look like? And I would say that the show that you choose has to be one that your subject matter expert is really comfortable with. If your subject matter expert hates being on video, don't make them do video. The most important thing is trying to get that pillar piece of content with your subject matter expert regularly recorded. You need to commit to that. So for us, we do the B2B playbook, once a week. That's our pillar piece of content. That's probably way more than we actually need. Probably once a month is a fine place to start. But the beautiful thing about creating that pillar piece of content is that everyone can commit to it. And then you have all this beautiful content that you can just start to repurpose and redistribute. Because that's a really key thing about content is it's not just creating it and leaving it on your website, but it's about actually getting it in front of your dream customers. And that's really important because this is an iterative process, right? The way that you start your content program is not going to look anything like how you finished it. Episode 1 for Kevin and I, even though we planned out the first 100 episode, the way that we do it has actually changed quite a lot. And the way that we distribute it has changed quite a lot. And the reason for that is we've constantly been collecting qualitative and quantitative feedback from our dream customers on the show. So we can find out which pain points were we really, really hitting, which episodes were people most engaged on. And so we constantly refine that. So building that content pillar and then being able to repurpose and redistribute it is absolutely vital. Because as I said, that's what's going to get you in front of your dream customers. That's what's going to be able to give you that information to then improve it and get better. But it's also going to give you a framework for creating content that you can actually stick to. And I think that's where so many people go wrong is they don't do something that's actually achievable. And so I would make that really as part of our MVP of building this media entertainment company is building something that is absolutely achievable. So they are the absolute foundations that I would look to build for that media company. And then once you have that, then start to really leverage all that information that you collected in that be ready stage and start to work with that Dream 100. Can you include them as part of your show? So now you're collaborating with others, you're cross-pollinating your audiences, you're starting to grow more, you're creating all this awesome, helpful, entertaining content, you're getting feedback on how to improve it more. And then I would get to eventually, once you're in a great cadence with that, I'd get to our third stage of the 5Bs framework, which is be seen. And I just look at amplifying that. In my view, that is the best use of paid media is, hey, let's push this super fun, helpful, educational content to people who can use it, to people who want it. And in my mind, that is a great foundation for a media company, for a B2B business. I think sometimes when people say, we need to build a media company, it doesn't have enough focus. And they're trying to do things that are kind of unrealistic. So in my mind, that is a way of really creating that MVP for a media company that's actually fundamentally aligned with your dream customers and any issues that they're facing.
Ooh, man, George, I love that. I love the way your mind works. And I'm just I'm getting a lot of ideas as you lay that out. One thing that occurred to me as you were painting that picture was the contrast between a Netflix and an Amazon Prime. So let me tell you about my wife and my experience. It's maybe a Friday or Saturday night. We turn on the TV. The kids have gone to bed. We want to find something to watch. Now, often we'll have a show on Netflix that we're already subscribed to, committed to, whether it's 1 season or 5. We're in it for the long haul. Those are good nights. We get our popcorn, we get our wine, and we're settled in. We're happy. But then every now and then you get to the end of a show, you get to the end of a series, and you have to find that thing to watch next. And there's something that Netflix and Disney have in common. They almost have a dream customer. If you're subscribed to Disney Plus, you're probably into Marvel movies or Star Wars movies, or maybe you've got young kids and you like to watch the kiddie movies. On Netflix, they've got several pillar shows. Stranger Things. The very first one was House of Cards several years ago. You know what you're getting. But when you go to Amazon Prime, they've aggregated popular movies and shows from all over the place, and it takes forever to find something to watch on there. That's what occurred to me as you were painting this picture of deciding who your dream customer is, and then interviewing them so you figure out the specific problems you want to solve.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great analogy. And just making it so obvious that this content is designed for you. Like it's for you. It's so clear because it reflects, like, your position in the company that you work at, because it interviews people that you follow, because it's providing directly helpful information just for you. I mean, the world is so connected. It's so much better to go super deep on a niche, than really wide on something that has no impact.
Yeah.
And how you provide that unique value to them, I mean, that's up to you. Um, you know, we like to try and make our show more sticky by creating, I guess, a serial format. As we said, that, you know, we planned out our first 100 episodes. Every episode builds on the last one. So what we often see in our download numbers is you have someone who comes in, at some entry point, and then they often go back to the beginning and then just start to work their way through it. So that
Wow.
content is evergreen. And I think that is probably a huge benefit, right? In making it a very, very sticky product. So we don't want to create like one and done, super timely pieces of content, right? Like the great shows you can watch again and again and again. God, I still sit down and watch Seinfeld, every night,
Yep.
despite this incredible influx of TV that's going on. My brother jokes that I've missed the last 10 years of all popular culture because all I do every night for some reason is just rewatch
Man,
Seinfeld.
that's powerful though.
It
That's
is. It's
powerful.
so powerful. Because I don't know, the way that they've done it, it was so entertaining. It was so funny. It's still so relevant today, that it's evergreen, and I can just watch it again and again and again. And I really encourage listeners, when they try and do this for their own business, of thinking of a way of, okay, how can we not make it just relevant now, but how can we provide value, far beyond the episode release date?
Ooh, man, that's good. That's good. All right, George. You did pretty good as a media executive, I've got to say. I'll be tuning in. I'll be tuning in with my $7.99 a month.
I think probably something that's quite noticeable for people when they watch this is I really don't mention like that many specific tactics. It's all strategy based, right? I didn't say, you should do exactly this, because that all really depends on the particular market that you're in. It depends on your strengths as a company. The important thing is you have this framework in place and you follow it, and then you can fill in the gaps yourself.
I like that, and that's probably a good approach for a lot of us to take. All right, George, I've got to find a way to stump you because you're doing pretty well on these questions. So I gotta come. I gotta come out with the big guns. We're gonna go to a place called the Sunken Place. All right, and I'm gonna try to get you out of here in a couple of minutes. But the Sunken Place is this place where, as companies try to transition from putting almost their entire budget into demand capture over to moving some to demand creation, maybe transitioning from gated content to opening it up and ungating everything, there's something that happens where those MQL numbers may start to decline, sometimes precipitously. And that MQL number can at times be a security blanket because, at least for the short term, management feels like, okay, I can see what marketing is doing. I see that number going up. So for marketers who are listening to your voice right now, they're trying to make that transition so they can do more demand creation. How do they survive that 3 to 6 months during which MQLs are dropping, but the demand creation hasn't actually started bringing in pipeline?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I'll just say that no marketer should really start to do this with buy-in from the appropriate teams. So I would say try and get that buy-in as much as possible. If you have that buy-in, then there should be an understanding across both parties of, this is what's going to happen over the next 3 months, but these are the leading indicators of success. And we've already spoken about what those indicators are. So making sure that all parties are aware of, hey, you know what, these leading indicators are coming in. We can see that things are heading in the right direction. And also make sure that there's still that focus on opportunities. If you're doing this right, there shouldn't actually be a drop in overall opportunities and the number of deals that are actually won. So
Mm-hmm.
making sure that people realize that we're not actually losing any opportunities in the meantime. We have all we're doing is cutting those MQLs that are driving no impact at all, that just wasting sales' time or actually
Mm.
becoming more efficient. So I would
Mm.
say making sure that all parties are really aware of that qualitative and quantitative insights, those
Mm-hmm.
leading indicators that are going to get us there. So communication is just a huge part of it, right?
Mm.
And making sure that people see that those opportunities still aren't dropping. Um, if it is a really big organization and less MQLs can mean less potential pipeline for sales, even if it is not great pipeline. Would like to look at how can you do this more incrementally. Is there a particular product line that you can start with in doing this demand creation to try and prove it out as a concept, so the overall impact is smaller on the business?
Mm-hmm.
So really trying to do it more incrementally can be a way of doing it too.
Love it, love it, love it. We're gonna get you out of here, George. This has been fascinating. If you have time, can we get you into reality roulette? Ask you one more question, final one.
Yeah, absolutely, let's do it.
60 seconds. So you've been charged with remixing a reality show for B2B. What reality TV show would you pick, and how would you spin this as a B2B show?
Oh god, I was I was thinking about what my favorite reality shows were, and I really wanted to do something with Pimp My Ride. Except maybe instead of like slapping plasmas or everywhere in a car, we can go in and pimp out someone's demand creation strategy.
Oh my
But then I thought
gosh.
something more fun would probably be like, did you ever see Wife Swap or Trading Spouses, where like two
Um,
families
uh,
swap wives?
okay, I'm not proud of it, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought instead of that, you could do that, but CMOs of like a large Fortune 500 swaps roles with someone of like, an A series startup, or maybe even,
Wow.
seed funded startup. And we can track their progress and see how they handle like the different challenges. Because I mean, one is now dealing with thousands of employees, and the other is probably having to get their hands dirty. And I think it'd be really interesting because both would probably bring really valuable things to the other's role. And I'm sure there'd be a lot of stress, probably some tears, which is what we want, right? It's not reality TV unless someone's crying. So hopefully it creates enough stress that it's entertaining.
Oh, that is crazy. You actually came up with two. So pimp my demand and CMO swap. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's a much better name. This is why I just exist in the strategy space, Balaji. I'm gonna leave the actual creative stuff to you.
oh man, this is
That's
all
great.
you, my man. These are brilliant ideas, and I think I would tune in to watch those. This has been great. Hey George, we got to get you out of here so you can go start your day and help a lot more of these B2B companies. Thank you so much for coming on the Demand Wars. This was a great treat.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very nervous as to who you put me up against. Be kind with your editing, please.
I got
Be
you.
kind.
Hey, tell us about the B2B incubator, though. I don't want people to miss out. So tell us a little bit about how we can follow up with that and why we should.
Yeah, for sure. So look, if you like our 5Bs framework, which is, our framework for creating and capturing demand, you can either listen to the B2B playbook, which is the free way, but you've got to listen to 65 plus episodes of Kevin and I. We give 60% of it away there. But if you want to implement it with 9 other B2B marketers over 12 weeks, where we give you the strategy, the tools, the templates, we're launching that in January. So we've just got a cohort wrapping up now who are getting a ton out of it. We've had heads of marketing, marketing managers, content leads get a ton out of the program. And they're all implementing demand strategies together for their businesses. And next one's launching end of January 2023. So head to the b2bincubator.com to find out more.
You've been listening to George Coudounaris, co host of the B2B Playbook and the B2B Incubator. Check out his LinkedIn profile. It's one of the most innovative that I've seen on the website. George, this has been a blast. We'll see you next time.
So much fun. Thank you, Balaji. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, folks. See you later.